How many of you have a cell phone?
Does it have to be
Wow.
an iPhone?
Nope, doesn't have to be an iPhone. Who has a cell phone? Okay. Now, were you the one who picked out what cell phone you have? No? Okay, some of you yes, some of you no. Do you guys, if any of you went to the store and realized like how many options there are? Not just with the phone that you get, but also with the plan. I don't know if you're the one that makes that decision in your family or not. Maybe it's your mom, stepmom, grandpa, dad, whoever goes to the store and actually looks at all the nitty-gritty stuff of the deals, like shareable data, unlimited calling, unlimited texting, all those fun things. I know from us, we kind of want to demand, we make sure we have texting, make sure we have certain things, but the actual cost and all the different variety of how that works is crazy. There's so many different options. And I don't know if you know this or not, but a while ago, which for me, it's difficult to understand what I want, how to save money, what's the best for your whatever phone, because we recently switched from Verizon to Sprint, okay? Now, they had this really cool deal on all these iPhones. I'm like, all right, we're doing that. We did it. Probably wasn't the best deal, okay? Because I need help in understanding what the best deal is because there's so many options. Now, get this. There was an actual company in 1999 called Wirefly that was launched and then relaunched in 2014. The whole premise of this company was their job was to come in and compare all the plans, all the phones, and let you know what's the best for your money. That's the sole job of this company. And it's doing really well. It's smart. They're smarter humans than I that are running this company to help us make a decision on what's best to buy. It just basically compares everything. It compares everything. I don't know if you are like me at all, but when I was looking at an iPhone certain number and the newest one coming out, I want to know what's better, what's different, what like, does it have that button when you hold on it? It comes up with different options, all that kind of fun things, because the new one does. Now, I need a company like Wirefly. And I think it's easy to do that when it comes to our cell phone. But how many of you think of like in terms of a Wirefly comparison tool system when it comes to the people around you? And that's really what I want to talk to you about tonight, because I know there's certain things, and this may feel or sound a little bit different, but growing up, I wish somebody would have told me this. I wish somebody would have talked about this. And that's what I want to do tonight is talk to you about this. And that is, I think that with the people around us, we have our own Wirefly system of comparison that's already in place. I don't know if you felt this like with your friends or at school or at church even on the weekends. But there's this system that's like Wirefly that's sizing us up, comparing us, thinking that if we're cool enough, smart enough, funny enough, in order for us to have like a relationship, or in order for us to have a friendship, or for us to actually spend time or give effort to someone. It's happening all the time. Now, I think also this happens in our family, with our parents. I know some of you have a lot of siblings, and you may feel like nobody cares. You may feel like nobody wants to listen to your opinion, or values your opinion, or has time for your opinion, and they're valuing their time and making priority, and you feel like you're left out. There's this comparison going on. There's also, I think it's true with God. I don't know how many times we've gotten in a place for me, myself. I grew up in a church. I went to church nonstop whenever the church doors were open. I was at church. And here's the thing for me. What I found in church was I heard the message of Jesus. I heard the fact that Jesus died on the cross to save my sins. I heard that. But there were so many times in my life growing up that I always was questioning whether I was worth it. There's so many times I was questioning whether I was worth it because I was always in trouble. There was always somebody mad at me. There was always something going on in the sense that somebody, I felt like they didn't like me, therefore I looked at myself differently. Because here's the point. Sometimes when we find that somebody doesn't like us, it's so easy then for us not to like ourselves. That's just the way it works. But even more than that, if we were really honest tonight, I would rather talk about a side note too, and that is we do this to other people. We compare other people all the time. This is natural for us to do. We're always looking at other people and saying, what if they were better? Are they worth my time? Are they worth my influence? Are they worth hanging out with me? Are they worth even eating lunch with me? Lunch, I don't know about you guys, I just know I remember lunch growing up was the place, okay? That was the place where you figured if somebody liked you or not, because you found out really quickly who was sitting around you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I also heard the other day something about Moline High School. They have a good nacho versus a bad nachos. Does anybody know that? I didn't know that. There's like a good line for nachos, and then there's a bad line for nachos. You don't want to go to the bad line, okay? Because I guess the cheese is cold. Wow. Yeah, I know. Like, this is some heavy stuff. I just want to, this is free, okay? You want to take this and use this, okay? But the more importantly is, it's who you're sitting with. We've always made that. For me, growing up, I did that on a regular basis. I questioned who was around me, who I was sitting with, why I wasn't sitting with so-and-so, and you know what? There was always somebody better. Always there was somebody better. There's this wirefly comparison system and tool that we use in our life all the time. So what I want to talk to you tonight is some really interesting things that I think will help us kind of break this down, because you know what? This is happening right here, right now. And I think there's some really interesting things that we can find out of the Bible and what God really is saying about this whole comparison thing. Because one of the worst things we can do is feed the urge. And really what this wirefly system is, this urge for us to compare and get the best deal. We want to compare and get the best deal. And it's so natural for us. But it comes to be a problem when we try to guess what other people think. And get this, please. When we guess what other people think about us, then let that determine what we think about ourselves. That's the big thing. That's what I found to be absolutely true. When you let somebody who doesn't like you, they tell you this because people are really good at it, and unfortunately they're really good at it even on social media, telling you on Facebook or telling you on Instagram. I heard of a group, that was a couple years ago, I heard that people were taking pictures of people that weren't in a group, or they were making fun of so-and-so. They take a picture, put it on Instagram, and share it, and say horrible things about that person. Can you imagine that, being that person going home? Because here's the thing, here's the truth. And this happens to you, and it happens to that person. Bless you. It happens to whoever's going on in this situation. That is, how you are treating that person is exactly how, unfortunately, they're going to be treating themselves. That's the truth. And it may seem serious, it may seem extremely, maybe strong right now in what I'm talking to you about, but I see this all over the place. Unfortunately, and it's in the moments when you are really honest and you're saying, I don't like who I am, it usually stems back to what somebody had said about you. Growing up, I had to wear these massive glasses, okay? What I would call serial killer glasses, okay? They were horrible. And here's the thing. I had to wear them because I had the worst vision ever. I don't know why. I was just born like that. And here's the thing. I had like four like knots. I don't know how you gauge it. I remember 4 like area, whatever, to the positive or negative far-sighted. And then on like my other eye, I was the opposite to the nearsighted. And so I was like, what am I, cross-eyed? I have no idea. So I had to use like these super strong, they would burn ants with the sun, okay? That's how strong and thick these lenses were, and they were like a face mask. I remember riding the bus, because I had to ride the bus all the time, and I remember always being in trouble, and there was this one person, his name was Adam, okay? Adam always made fun of me. He didn't have to wear glasses. He had 20/20 vision. So the first thing he would say is something about my glasses, because you know what? They're pretty noticeable, okay? And he was really honest. So he always told me that I looked like an idiot, okay? So I'd walk away, guess what? Not wearing my glasses. Or I'd walk away thinking how much of an idiot I really am. And it was only based on what he said. It was only based on what he said. Not what I said, not what my parents were saying, not what the Bible said, nothing. But it was in one comment that lasted maybe 1 second. That's what I walked away with. Why do we do that? Why do we get to a place where that's who we listen to? And it invades all of our life. It invades who we think we are, but also who we think God is. So I just want to jump right into this. And in order to jump into this, I just want to say something here real quick. And that is, has anyone in this room ever been late to a movie? Okay, yes, okay. Have you ever been late to a movie? Now, I'm not talking about previews, because in my book, if I'm late for previews, I'm late to a movie. I love the previews. I don't know if you are like that at all, but I love the previews. And I also love, just as much as I do the previews, the popcorn with the white cheddar seasoning. Hello. White cheddar seasoning is where it is at, okay? And it does cost extra, but it's worth it, okay? I believe in that seasoning, and it believes in me. I will put this on my popcorn, and I will gladly eat it. The funny thing is, no one else in my family likes it, so I have to wait. I'll get a large, like one of those buckets that you feel like you're walking in like a horse trough, and everyone's looking at you. I'm like, yes, I love popcorn. I love popcorn. But I'm with my family. I'm not going to eat all of this today, okay? So I walk in, and my family has to eat all of it until like the middle or whatever, my wife always eats popcorn and she gets sick. It's really funny, but she can't help herself. She has to eat popcorn, but she still gets sick. So I wait till she gets sick. And then I get the popcorn, and then I dump the white cheddar all over it because it's mine, all right? I love that. And so if I'm late for previews, I'm in trouble. Here's what I'm just saying about that, and that is, when you miss the beginning of a movie, you know you're in trouble because it sets up the whole rest of the movie. I don't know if you've done this. I have. I've missed the beginning of a movie in the theater, and then once it was out and I rented it, and I saw actually what was going on, and I missed that one part, and I'm like, oh, that makes total sense, because I missed that in the theater. But now I'm seeing the whole thing, and I'm like, oh, I get it. I understand it now. Here's the thing. The same thing is true about the Bible. Bless you. You're on a roll. Same thing is true about the Bible. Genesis sets up the entire Bible. And like we said last week, I just want to go back to that verse. Like we said last week, and you may remember this, but I want to it should be on the screen there. Genesis summarizes us, or what is happening with this statement. It says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And then the writer concludes with this powerful explanation point, okay? This powerful thing. Right after this, a couple verses later, it says this, God saw, it should be up there, next slide. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. Explanation point. Why was his creation very good? Why is this statement made? Why is his creation very good? You know why? Because God saw himself in what he created. God looked at his creation and saw himself. But what does it mean to bear the image of God? What does it mean for us to bear the image of God? Because that is a tricky question, and it's not an easy one to answer. But we have the DNA of God in us. What does it mean to have the image of God is a tough question to wrestle around with. But it's one that I've not heard many people talk about or think about. It's one that I've heard the Bible talk about, but a lot of times when people aren't very familiar with the Bible, they don't really go there. So here's the thing. A group of people once, this is a religious, educated people, once went up and talked to Jesus, and they asked Jesus, what is the most important thing they should think about and do? They were testing him. They knew they had an idea, and they thought they would test Jesus in front of everybody. So they put him on the spot. It's like one of you stands up and comes up here and asks me, what's the bottom line to the whole Bible or his life kind of thing, and that's what they did to Jesus. But the people that asked this question had an idea of what they were talking about, and they went to it. But here's the thing. Jesus quoted from the verse we talked about last week. But not only did he quote, he added something crazy. He says this. It should be on the slide there or up on the screen. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Did you catch the two words? Maybe you didn't, but the two words that I'm thinking of is as yourself. As yourself. Here's what Jesus is declaring, that loving yourself and others is just as important as loving God, loving the Lord. Have you ever thought of it that way? Loving God is just as important as loving yourself and others. Jesus wants us to love ourselves. And there is a big difference. There is a big difference between comparing and loving ourselves. Between that wire fly comparison system, what we all know, and loving ourselves. Because here's the thing, loving ourselves has nothing to do with lifting up another person, or ourself, I should say, lifting up ourself above anyone else. It's nothing about us being better or putting us more importantly. What it has to do with is loving ourselves means that we believe we matter. Why do we matter? Any idea why we matter? Because loving ourselves means, get this, we matter because God created us. And it's really difficult to love ourselves if we don't feel like God loves us. So one of Jesus' friends, his name was John, who wrote a letter. In his letter, John wrote toward the end of his life. And usually it's pretty significant when we find out a writer is toward the end of his life, because this is some important stuff that he wants to share with you. He says this, how great is the love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. Get this. God calls us his children. This means you matter. God calls you his. Regardless of how maybe your parents, your siblings, your friends, non-friends, his people have treated you, regardless of all that, God says you're worth it. Regardless how you feel about yourself, you are important. You're valuable, you're accepted and loved because you have been declared a child of the God of the universe. Because here's the thing, God always loves you as you are right now, this second. Did you hear that? God always loves you as you are right now, this very second. Now, I don't know if you're like me at all, but for me, I have to be reminded of this on a regular basis. This is something as an adult, experiencing everything I have experienced up in this point, because I'm old. I'm older than I even think I am. But here's the thing, experiencing everything that I have up until this point, I know this about myself. I have to be constantly reminded of myself. Reminded of what God thinks of myself. I have specific verses around my desk. If you ever have a chance to look at my desk, on sticky notes. I have to actually handwrite them on sticky notes and put them up. And I have to think and read through these on a regular basis because I'll get lost in this. And so I have to constantly remind myself of what God says about me. And the best way to do this is about the Bible. That's the only way that I've known. And so here's the thing. I also have heard, and maybe you've heard this before too, that the Bible is God's love letter to us or about us, which is incredible to think about. And it puts the Bible in a whole different way. But it's important to fill your mind with the truth of God. It's just as important as when you drive a car and you have to have gas in it. I'm not going to name any names, but I know there are some students, one in particular I remember, a couple years ago or maybe a year ago, I don't remember, time goes really fast, but he ran out of gas in the middle of the intersection, Alex. I don't know, you can talk to him later, but in the middle of a very busy intersection. It was very important in that moment for him to realize how important gas was. Now, he could blame it on his brother, which I think maybe did, but in the moment, it didn't matter because he had to have gas or nothing, kind of thing, and he found out gas equals movability, okay, in the middle of an intersection. The same is true about the Bible. Here's a couple of examples. Psalms 86:15 says this, "But you, Lord, are compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness." Or John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son." Romans 8:37, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loves us." Psalm 36:5, "Your love, Lord, reaches to the heavens, your faithfulness to the skies." But it's not enough for us to read it. We have to believe it. You have to make a decision about this. Because here's the thing I do know. If you don't make a decision about how God sees you or how you believe in God or what's going on in God, here's the thing I do know. The people around you will make that decision for you. It's not about truth or what is true or what's not true. It's about who you're with. And if you are liking the people you are around, pay attention because you're going to become like them. The kid that made fun of me having glasses and horrible glasses that made my eyes look super large, okay? The kid that made fun of me is now at my home church with his family. He was just baptized 2 weeks ago. Him and his youngest son were baptized together, and I got to see the video, and when he came out of the water, he was just throwing both hands in his air. He came from a family where his dad was an alcoholic. He was so mad at the world because of the way his dad treated him, and his dad and mom got in a divorce late in life. I was floored when I was at my home church when he walked in the doors. But why wait? You're here right now. Why not make a decision on where you stand with God? Because you don't know what's going to happen in your life. You don't know how many chances you're going to get. And I just want to go back to this last thing, and I'm ending here, okay? That is this. If you noticed in John's verse, he said this, "How great is the love the Father has lavished on us." Now, that's probably a word, lavished, you haven't used in your regular vocabulary. You haven't said, "I'm so thankful for how much my Father has lavished me with money." No, you probably haven't said that word, nor have you heard anyone say that. Lavish, though, is a pretty interesting word. We're talking about God's love, okay? If you look at the dictionary, it says this, giving or using a large amount of something, given in large amounts, having a very rich, expansive quality. Here's the question, and we're done. Did you or do you ever see God as Father who lavishes you with his love? He does. God always loves you, as you already are. So today, if you remember from last week, we have this wired wall, and we have these notes, there's pens. I want you to come up here when we're going to sing this last song. The worship team can kind of make their way up if they're there, but as they're making their way up, I'm going to have these 3x5 cards. You do not have to do this if you don't want to, but if you have seen in some way God's wiring, I want you to take that, and I think there's tape. I put tape right here just in case I didn't know. There is tape. You just write it on a 3x5 card in a word or a phrase, okay? And how you've seen God's wiring in this world. What you're thankful for about God. How you're looking and seeing God. One word or a phrase. You write that on the card, put tape on it, and you put it on that wall. That's up to you. No one's pushing you to do that. You don't have to. But it's here for you to use, okay? Adults, you can do the same. It's up to you. But I'm just going to pray, and we're going to close out with a worship song. Jesus, thank you so much for continuing to remind us all how much you love us. But not just that you love us, but just how much it means for us to understand we have to love ourselves. We have to love others. And so, Father, I just give this to you, this service. I pray, Lord, right now, right here, that if anyone hasn't made a decision about you, that maybe in small group time they can make that commitment, and that today may change everything for them. But those who have made a commitment, I pray right here, right now, Lord, that they would just have an overwhelming feeling of your love upon them. And more importantly, even, what that really means for themselves. I give this to you, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.